Alright, hi everybody, my name is Billy, and we're just going to do a little commentary video on Mermails versus Dark World. And before I start, I just want to say that I think Mermail's a good deck. It's like a mid-tier 2 deck that a lot of pros are just kind of overhyping because they had to take a second mortgage on their house to build Mermail. Like I said, this is a fun deck, but it's just to get the point across. The first thing I just want to mention about Dark Worlds versus Mermails and why I think Dark Worlds is just a better Mermail deck than Mermails are is the card advantage. You know, Dark World just has a way better card advantage system than Mermails have. See, Mermails have to kind of rely on their effects, their actual monster effects, to get a card advantage, or Abyss Sphere. And I want to talk a little bit about Abyss Sphere later on. So, Dark World has Gates of Dark World, which is just so broken. It's bringing everything up to 300 by 300 attack in a pretty decently bulky deck. Snow's not only a good searcher, but she can also just be used as a 2000 beater. That's insane. You can use Deck Devastation Virus with just Snow if you have a bad hand. That's really, really good. But Mermail plays, you know, their card advantage. The best one is Gen X Undyne. Let's be real. And with Undyne, yeah, her effect's really broken. You can just destroy something face down, face up, or search for Moon Glacier or whatever. But you run the risk of getting the two controllers in your hand at the beginning, or getting one controller in your hand. You really don't want a Gen X controller in your hand, because then you have pretty much dead draws for the other two. A smart opponent is gonna ask you to show you have a controller in your deck, so you can't just kind of cheat around that. But just in general, the Dark Worlds also have a really easy access to Sangan, and that's some Dark World decks don't even choose to run Sangan because Sangan is just that slow in it. The other thing is Tour Guide versus Diva. You know, Deep Sea Diva looks a lot more broken than Tour Guide on paper, but I think in practice it's not really. First off, look at Diva. She only has 200 attack compared to Tour Guide's 1000. Second off, Tour Guide has better typing. Even though this is an ocean deck, Diva's an ocean deck, but in the ocean deck, but Tour Guide has more benefits. She lets you get a fiend. She's not only a fiend to help the gates, but she's also really just good because I think Exeasing's a lot better than Synchroing. And if you get effect failured, it's a lot better to have a 1000 attack point monster than a 200 attack point. Yeah, they both get run over, but that little bit of life point extra can kind of hurt you a lot more in the long game. Also, Synchroing's not as good as Exeasing, and yeah, Diva is kind of mostly for one-shot kill, can be used for one-shot kills. I wouldn't say mostly, I guess, but at the end of the day, it's just the Tour Guide's just better. She's just a better card. You know, and the other thing we can get to now is the boss monsters. It's Grapha versus the other 2700 beater from Mermail, and I'm sure a lot of Mermail players are going to bring that up. Whoa, I could special summon my 2700 or 2400 boss monster straight from the deck with the Abyss Sphere Mermaid combo, but the Dark World player, they can't. Well, the thing is, Snow is just amazing for searching because the fact that she just brings the Grapha to your hand is kind of better. The reason for that is because when Grapha goes to the hand, it doesn't have to worry about getting banished from the field. Like when you special summon your 2700 beater guy, you're open to Bottomless Trap Hole, you're open to Torrential Tribute. Grapha doesn't have to worry about any of that. Grapha, as a matter of fact, would love to get Torrential Tributed. He's just going to come back. And remember, when Grapha gets pitched, he's taking out those things threatening him. If there's a Chaos Sorcerer on the field, he'll take it out, and then he can special summon himself by playing the Dark World. The same thing with Bottomless Trap Hole. Yeah, you might not hit it with your special effect. You might hit something else or a bluff, but you're still taking at least one thing out if they're going to take out your Grapha. Like, you're pretty much always plussing unless there's something like Macro on the field. Next is Abyss Sphere, which I really wanted to get to and mentioned earlier. And the thing about Abyss Sphere is that, yeah, it's special summons from the deck, and it combos pretty good with the Mermaid, but a lot of people overlook Gateway to Dark World, which it lets you special summon a Dark World card the same way. Like, let's say you MST the face down Abyss Sphere. Somebody MSTs your face down Abyss Sphere, you chain with Abyss Sphere. Everybody knows, you know, the person MSTing just -1, and you just didn't lose anything. But it's the same thing with Gates of Dark World, you know? You play that thing Gateway to Dark World. I'm talking about Gateway, the quick spell, not the field. I should clarify that. They got similar names. Well, Gateway to Dark World lets you special summon a Dark World monster from the graveyard. So if they try to MST, you know, you can bring out Snow or you can bring out Grapha, and they're still -1. And yeah, you can't special summon a Dark World card the turn you use it, but you just use it on your opponent's end phase. It's just one of those overlooked cards that a lot of people kind of forgot about. I'll get another replay started before we continue on with this video. Lastly, I just want to talk about the fact that Dark World has way more power cards than the Mermail options. And my biggest question is to you is, do you want to have a lot of options? Have a bunch of small guns or specialized guns? Or do you just want to have a bazooka? Because Dark World's seriously just a bazooka. Dark World can just go off at any moment. And it's a lot harder to decide, you know? Like, if somebody plays Soul Drain on Dark World's not completely screwed like Mermail. Like, Mermail, you play Soul Drain on Mermail, they better Black Rose or something. Or they better have an MSC or a Black Rose or just anything. Dark Worlds, though, they can still Grapha bounce, even with Shadow Mirror or Soul Drain out. You know, they have the draw power to draw into their sides a lot easier. So, I think Mermail's biggest problem in the end of the day was just kind of like in Sectors. Everybody's most common sides against Dark World was just really good against Mermail too. Like, you play Soul Drain, you play Dimensional Fissure, you play Macrocosmos, you stopped the Mermail player unless they have spell removal. And that's really friggin' bad when you want to get competitive. And that's kind of why the deck has so many problems. They get a pseudo advantage, you know, pseudo advantage. They're gaining a lot of cards, but if one card stops them, other than the deck thinning, that's a plus. They didn't really do anything with that advantage. They can't do anything with those weak little things. In Dark Worlds, they just have the most devastating things. You know, they have friggin' the virus cards. Eradicator Epidemic Virus, which stops your opponent's, destroys your opponent's spells and traps first off, and then makes them discard any they draw for the next 3 turns. Oh, and they have to show you what their hands and face down cards are, so you can see any threats. Yeah, Deck Devastation Virus. No one wants to get hit by Deck Devastation Virus. Even decks with everything over 1500 attack don't want to get Deck Devastation Virus, because then the Dark World player plays Mind Crush and you lose the key cards in your hand. Mermails, they have the Spiritual Art, Oi, and it's like, cool, Dark World does that better with Drag Down, and they gain advantage from it. You know, you kind of have to -1 on your card. Dark World players aren't minusing anything, they're just plussing like crazy. And so, you know, the Dark Worlds just are better Mermail than Mermail. They have the more options. They have better power cards. They have a boss monster that won't die. The new Mermail card coming out isn't going to solve any of the deck's problems. It's the card that you discard a Mermail, you discard a water monster and special summon it from your hand. It's level 4, I believe. That doesn't solve anything. You're still going to hit by Soul Drain. You're still going to hit by Dimensional or Macro. You know, the Dark World can... They're just better at dealing with stuff because of the Graphas and the draw power. So that's just my thoughts, and I hope you enjoyed them. Just comment if you disagreed. Try to keep it civil, guys, and, you know, watch another video later.